I live here. I have 2 daughters. And I never thought I was a writer. I was a PE teacher. I did cartwheels and headstands. But on my master's thesis, I didn't want to take comps. Didn't want to go in and have to take a test because I never did that well. So I decided I was going to write about the woman at my college who was the most phenomenal physical education instructor in the world, who produced more All-American field hockey players than anybody else at the time. She was there for about 30 years. And so my master's thesis was about Eleanor Frost Snow, who, by the way, was born in Lincoln, Nebraska, and went to the University of Nebraska undergraduate school. Anyway, then when I moved out here, I started at Raymond Central, was there many years, and then became an elementary principal. And in order to do that, I needed more certification. So decided to jump into a doctoral program. And with that came a rather massive writing project called the dissertation. Yeah. The history of Nebraska public school finance law. It's on the table. You could drop it and hurt your feet. So, enough about me. Melissa, I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. I know I'm excited. My name is Melissa Baker. I'm from Lincoln. My name might only be familiar from a few friends that put my sign in their yard. I ran for the Lower Platte South NRD, and I was elected, and I just recently was sworn in. So I represent Subdistrict 3. I am just passionate about water quality and all those types of things. So I'm from Lincoln. I went to Lincoln High School, so I'm an LPS person. I currently work for LPS. I'm a para. I work for preschoolers. My kids are 6 and 8, so it's like very fresh in my brain to have those littles. So I'm an afternoon para at the moment, but I've written a book, but it's in its very, very beginning stages. I'm still looking for an illustrator because my art is not book worthy. It's pretty messy, so I need to find that piece and want to actually get like an LLC and become published and that sort of thing is a goal of mine. But I can talk more about my book later, so I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
I'm Dolores Smith. I taught English at Raymond Central, so I taught like 3 of these people. 4 of them, sorry,
More students.
And then there's probably more. Oh, hi. Okay, and I'm not a published author. And now I'm retired and I'm in a book club and finally reading books that I never read when I taught because I was too busy reading papers about books. Yeah. So anyhow, that's me.
Thank you.
I'm Morgan Lum, and I live just outside of Sarasco a little bit. And I have currently published my first poetry book, so that's pretty exciting. And I plan to publish more in the future, a lot more actually. So yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
My name is May Mashik. I go to Raymond Central High School with Morgan. She's a senior, I'm a junior, but yeah. I've been committed to making art my whole life, pretty much, so I'm pretty dead set on becoming an artist, really sharing my craft, but I mostly specialize within like painting and like doing digital paintings with new and emerging technology, and really just trying to branch out the elements and just see where I can explore. So yeah, I'd made Morgan's cover for her book, back cover, and yeah, I just love making art. I love the creatives in general.
Thank you.
I'm Jill Huck. I currently teach junior high, so I had the pleasure of having both of these people in class, and it was wonderful, so I'm very proud of them. And I'm in my 18th year of teaching English, and I think my 8th year at Raymond Central. And I was very much like Morgan. I have notebooks and notebooks of poetry at home when I was her age and younger writing, and so it's kind of made me think I need to get those back out a little bit, dabble in those a little bit, so, yeah.
Good, glad you're here, thank you.
My name is Donna Gould. I also am a Raymond Central graduate and grew up here, and that's my mom, if you haven't figured that out already. I currently work in IT. I work for a company called Monolith, and I'm their IT director. But I am an avid reader. Last year I hit my goal of reading 40 books. And so I like to read a lot. I do occasionally write really terrible poetry that I never read again and just like goes away to get some feelings out. But otherwise, yeah, I just like to read.
I'm Carla Ward. That's what I write under. I'm Carla Cloutier legally, but it's a terribly hard name to pronounce and spell, and everyone, for some reason, after I got married, started to call me Clara, and it drove me nuts. So when I started getting things published, I was putting it under my maiden name because it's just so much simpler and easier. So anyway, yeah, I started out writing stuff when I was like 13. So I was thinking of you guys. In high school I kind of fell off because I was kind of busy, but in junior high I had an old typewriter that someone gave me and I clacked out a lot. And I actually found a paper of mine from some class of yours the other day. My parents gave me like this old Tupperware thing, like a big bin of some of my old things because they were cleaning out. And anyway, I was like, oh my God, this is from Smith's English class. So, but yeah, so I mostly, at the moment, am a short story writer. I've had some things published. I think the one I'm probably the most, well, I don't know. This year was a really good year for me, I'll admit. I had a story get nominated for a Pushcart Prize, and I had a story published on the Saturday Evening Post website. So those are my two big, whatever. But anyway, yeah, I'm really glad to be here and meet other writerly types. It's kind of a lonely
Yes, it is.
endeavor. You're always at it by yourself, so it's nice to have some contacts and other people that do this too. So.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go. I'm Erica Pearson Kroll, and I live in Kearney, but I'm another Raymond Central grad, as we've already pointed out multiple times. Also curious about the overlap of I did Raymond Central speech and I do writing things, because I'm seeing a lot of it, which is interesting. I didn't think of myself as a writer. I mean, my best class, aside from band, was English, but I went on with a psychology degree at UNL and a master's at UNK in counseling. So it was a mental health. I did therapy, individuals, intensive family therapy in homes, and emergency assessment at Richard Young periodically. And then I haven't practiced for probably 10 years, but and I had other jobs, but at some point I decided that, like, I could write about these things. Like, I'm taking these continuing education things, like, I can write this stuff. So I kind of forged out as a side project freelancer at least 15 years ago, off and on, here and there. And at some point I decided I wanted to really push for it to be a full-time position, not position, but just like my career. And I think that was 2018, and a couple years ago I made that happen, and I left my administrative assistant job and was freelance for 2 years as a writer. And what I write is mental health authoritative consumer articles, like on GoodRx and on several addiction websites and that kind of thing. And then just in November I applied for a full-time writing job, and it turned out they wanted to have me as an editor. So I now am an editor, although that's very much from a writer's perspective, and I do a lot more like SEO, search engine research and keyword research and formatting and things that aren't necessarily just about writing the words, but I'm kind of on the other side of it, so that's interesting. So that's what I've been doing since November, and I know I learn a lot about Google. That's because that's where a lot of writing is now. And so I am published on some things. I have a lot of ghostwritten things that you would never know I've written, but I do have a couple of printed ones. Printing web pages is really terrible because that's not what they're made for, but I do have a couple out there and that you can see, and I have here with me. Anyway, so that's what I do, and it is by yourself and no one understands what you're doing. And why don't you write fiction? I'm like, that's not my game? I don't know. So, but I couldn't stop doing the writing thing, and now it's my job, basically, well, editing, but, so that's where I am here.
Cool. Go this way. Yeah, I'm Julie Mushik, I'm May's mom. I'm not a writer, but I enjoy reading and learning as much as I can throughout books, and so it was a good opportunity to meet everyone and learn from them.
I'm Brenda Lum. I'm Morgan Lum's mom.
I'm here to support Morgan and all the other writers. I'm not a writer myself. I mean, the most I've ever written is probably shopping lists. Some personal journaling, but I work for the University of Nebraska, so I've been there a year working in scholarships and financial aid, so I'm a numbers person. But I do like to read, and like Julie said, I like to learn as much as I can about, things I'm interested in, and just making myself a better person and making the world a better place.
I'm Emily Quick. I'm also a Raymond Central grad. This is my family, Jeff and Lyra. And I have always really enjoyed writing. I didn't do a whole lot on my own outside of school until later, like after graduating high school. Then I started really like picking up poetry to express like how I was understanding the world and feelings and all the things. And then I've been a singer my whole life, and my family grew up doing karaoke from when I was like 6 years old. And so for me, my big challenge was to put the two together, and it took me like maybe a couple years of like writing poetry until one day I just went in front of my computer, like webcam, for a little extra pressure, and I just had a poem, and I'm like, I'm gonna sing this. And so I sang it, and then I created a song just like that. And now when I write songs, they come in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's the words, and then the music comes, and now I have been working on learning the ukulele, and so now I can write chords to my songs and really develop them, and I try really hard to be really conscious about the language I use in songs, because with karaoke, like, I started to realize, like, okay, I'm singing these things. Does that, like, represent who I am or what I want to put out to the world? And I found some songs that I like to sing still for karaoke, but then I also wanted to take it to the next level and start writing my own messages, put them out there.
Hi, I'm Maureen Brace, and I'm just here because I don't know, I'm just trying a lot of new things, and I've liked writing, but I don't consider myself a writer, and I have always liked art, but I haven't done much art, so I'm just trying to start everything new. Cool, thank you.
I'm Tammy Pitlick. I'm a Raymond Central graduate. I actually kind of grew up in this house. Harriet actually had a children's book collection that I used to like to look at, and so she kind of inspired me. And I've been writing since I was 17, children's stories, a lot about my nieces and nephews. But the book I published was about my daughter. Just really write about my family. I work at the bank in Sresco, First Northeast Bank. And so my kids are really a lot of my inspiration. So that's where I'm at, working on another book, a bigger book, not a children's book. So.
What's the title of your children's book?
Look What Goldilocks Did.
Yeah,
yeah, Maddie had Goldilocks, so she had a little Goldilocks.
Okay.
Do you have a copy?
I do.
Yeah. Oh, so it's based on Maddie?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, based on Maddie, so Look What Goldilocks Did. She liked to make messes.
That didn't change, did it?
Well, I don't know. She's kind of morphed, I don't know. But yeah, they just all get into
cool.
different things. So yeah, Look What Goldilocks Did. She blamed it on the 3 bears, so it kind of stemmed from there. So.
Okay, I'm Sam Chrysler. I write for the Waverly News and the Wahoo newspaper. I know Dr. Gould through covering school board meetings. And I don't know, I went to University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I got a journalism degree there. I wrote for the Daily Nebraskan for 3 years, and I was an editor there. Graduated in 2019. This is my first actual newspaper job, but I like to write because I like having the clearance to ask people whatever I want. And usually they answer the questions. I had the privilege of talking to Dr. Gould for like 2.5 hours a few weeks ago, and just getting kind of her life story. Gonna put out a story in it, hopefully this week, but I have to go through that
No
entire
rush, no rush, no
conversation.
need.
Well, my
Put it
editor,
under a rock.
my editor might say otherwise. But yeah, happy to be here. Good to be around some fellow writers and creative folk.
Great, we had some other people join us. Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate Sidek. I work with Lincoln Public Schools with the Lincoln Community Learning Centers as a curriculum specialist. I don't really have any published work other than my dissertation. I suppose a lot of my writing has been more academic, but I do have some poems and songs that that I've just written on my own that haven't been published, and some ideas percolating around for some children's stories. So maybe at some point, but I'm mostly here to support my spouse Remy, who's here.
Okay, hi, I'm Remy Sedek. I've been writing since late high school. Most of my professional work has been academic or policy based, but mostly because it pays better than the prose. But I've tried to write all of it in a very prose sort of form, which has led to most of the reviews I've gotten on things being that it feels like they're sitting next to me, and so I really cherish those reviews. A few of you know me under a slightly different name. That sort of changes has led me back into poetry fairly hard, but my main published piece other than dissertation is a technical book about 10 years back about web accessibility and how to do that, so, which is apparently still used in some classrooms, which getting 15 years off of a technical book I'll definitely consider a victory.
Yeah, big time. And our photographer, does she want to step around on the other side?
I suppose I can. I'm Carolyn Enevoldson, and I'm here because, well, obviously Morgan is my student, so is May, and I want to support them. Learned a lot from Miss Smith. She was my mentor when I first started at Raymond Central, so genuinely appreciate her guidance and leadership. And I teach at Raymond Central now. This is my 16th year there. I had 3 years at Boys Town before that, so 19th year of teaching. I've not had anything published, but I do dabble in speech writing quite a bit. Since
You should. Yeah, I think that's true.
A little bit. So, yeah, other than having 3 master's theses, but I don't know if they've ever been actually published except through my colleges, so that's about it.
Very good, thank
Go back
you.
behind the camera.
Well, I just wanted to mention that there are several writers that were unable to be with us today. And one of them is Devin Reek. And Cheryl Reek, who is currently the superintendent's executive secretary, her son, Devin, is gone through school. I believe he was maybe a business major, but got into writing, and he's also into food. And he has a thing called Devin's Table where he would cater. But most recently, as of yesterday, he was en route to Wisconsin, and he is going to be opening the new restaurant in a Hy-Vee store in Wisconsin that they're just opening. So he was unable to be here, but he's in the process of a trilogy, and he's got 2 parts, part 1 and part 2 completed. So he's working, I think, on part 3. So another author that's kind of in the vintage of these ladies is Katina Boardman. And Katina just came out this past week, I believe, and it's just, I don't have the title in my head, but Katina is a bit of a gypsy.
It's a wonder.
It's Gypsy Wander or something?
Yeah, Wonder or something like that.
Yeah, and so she
really is.
She is. The story, I'm sure, is as much about probably what she's done or where she's been and the experiences that she's had. I ordered that book, and I ordered another book by a Ceresco author, and it would be Emily's Mother, Emily, do you know much about your mom's book?
Yeah, I read it. I really liked it. It's called The Glass Turnip. And it's a story about the world in kind of a little bit of a dystopian type of world, but then healing the world through connection and finding harmony and restoring harmony to the world is really good. It's a fiction. It's kind of like geared towards young adults, and so it's a pretty quick read, and it keeps your attention well. It's fun.
Another author who's done a tremendous amount of work is Tom Bluzek, and his book is on the table, and it has 3 volumes, and he's written a history of Valparaiso, and I think gone through all of the Nebraska, or all of the Valparaiso highlights and whatever was published previously, and it's rather extensive. I have to say I have not been through the volumes, but I have heard that I'm in the volumes. Be that as it may. Did I miss anyone? I just want to introduce my granddaughter. Meredith Nelson is here to help Grandma, and she's a student at the Lincoln Academy, Independence Academy, and she's done 2 job sites at UNL in food service, and this quarter she is out at Duncan Aviation. And so she's excited that maybe she'll get on a plane and go for a Doesn't know about
Just
that.
missed my
Anyway.
dad by like a year and a half. My dad did like 30 years there. It's a good, they treat their
It's a great spot, it's huge.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to pick her up the other day, and
Yeah.
and daughter Becky said, just find the buses. Yeah, school buses out there, so I got behind them anyway. So thank you, Meredith, for your help, we appreciate it. We do have snacks in the kitchen, and so please feel free to visit. There are paper plates, napkins, hot coffee with cream and sugar if you want that. There's bottled tea, if you'd like that, and then there's water on the table. So I just ask that if you're taking a beverage to a room, that's fine, just place it appropriately. Restroom is down the hall this way, and use that whenever you need to. What I'd like to do, I think, at this point is move on to the 2-minute gifts. Somebody mentioned writing is a lonely process. You're in solitude, and I can tell you the hours where I would go down the basement to my office and sit at the computer to try to hammer out that dissertation. And you know, there was nobody that could help me. It was me, me and the computer. But there are some things that we learn from that, and some things that perhaps I can share as part of my 2-minute gift. And my gift to you is perseverance. Because when I jumped into that dissertation process, I had an idea of what I wanted to write, and it was a story about the Gould lawsuit when we challenged Governor Orr at the time and everybody under her, including Donna and Becky as part of the suit, with regard to school funding. And because of that lawsuit, we were able to get past LB 1059. And LB 1059 was a little bit better for the property owner. See, my husband taught in Lincoln Public Schools, and then he came out to Raymond Central. It was night and day difference as far as what a teacher had available to them and the classrooms in which they taught the books, etc. So I thought I'd tell that story about the lawsuit, but that didn't happen, and instead it was the history of Nebraska public school finance law from the beginning through 1998, a rather large volume. So perseverance is my deal. I'm going to set the timer because I might have been over 2 minutes, but the next person won't be. You're on. A gift. What kind of a gift can you share?
I'm gonna have to pass and come back.
That's fine.
I'm still settling in.
We can do that. I gotta find my clock. Is anybody else ready?
I'll go. I don't necessarily have advice for other writers. I'm here to get as much of that as possible. The piece in my book, I guess the gift I have to share, I'm also a yoga instructor. I don't really like that title, but because I do yoga, right? Like I'm a yogi. I don't really think of myself as a teacher per se in that realm, although I do have that 200-hour teacher training certification. The book I've created and the gift I want to share with the world is, this is a children's book, but it's a book for everybody. It brings yoga and mindfulness to the piece of it, but it's also something simple that everybody's already done in their life. These small little poses that bring comfort, like child's pose. It's just a comforting turtle shape, and turtle's one of the characters in the book. And there's 3 characters, they each have a lesson, but I think my journey through yoga and mindfulness and trying to heal myself and trying to bring some healing to the world around me is the gift I think I share and that I'm really exploring. So that's mine.
Thank you.
I think I hopefully kept it under
Yeah,
2.
you're under.
Close.
Good. 44 seconds.
I'm gonna pass and just listen.
Yeah.
Just here to listen as well.
I haven't thought of anything yet.
Okay.
To be honest.
One idea, me and Morgan, we like to talk a lot about just philosophical ideas, just our work in general, being able to just bond, even though she's in the writing sphere, I'm in the artist sphere. It's surprising how many similarities there are, and just being able to connect and gain so many ideas from that. But in general, something that's really hit me is just being vulnerable within your work. And your work really just represents who you are as a person. And I don't think you should hold yourself back in it. That's something I've been really focusing on this year. Focusing my work on who I am as a person, what I believe in, and just going into like the niche topics. Just, I don't know. Something about it, I feel like we all really connect based on not necessarily what the work is, but the person behind it and what we can learn about the person. So I think just sharing who we are as people and really connecting over that, it's beautiful, and I like it.
Great, thank you.
I kind of tell stories about when I was in college with my students, and I had a professor that anytime we wrote anything for him, for his class, he did not give us much feedback other than on every single one of our papers, he would always write, "Is this the best you can do?" And then he would give that back. There was no grade, no feedback, like nothing. And I was always so frustrated because I needed feedback all the time. But it made me become very reflective in my own writing, and I constantly had to go back and look at my work and analyze it, and from kind of the teacher standpoint and kind of figure out where my mistakes were, and I had to learn from that myself. And then we would be able to turn it back in, and then he would give us the grade. We could always have conversation with him, so we could always go into his office and make an appointment to see him. But even then, it was very frustrating because he was very vague. He was just like, "I think you can do more, and I know you know that, so go do it." And like that was his message every time, and I was like, but it's stuck with me even as an English teacher, because Carolyn and I go through round and round with students of, go through the editing process, like look at it again multiple times, give yourself some time to go back and reflect, and the reflection piece I think is huge. So that's always stuck with me.
Thank you.
Not being a writer, I think that my biggest gift is maybe as an audience. I love reading. I read all kinds of things. I'm in a number of different book clubs. I like talking about books. The book clubs that I'm in challenge me to read things that I would not pick up myself, and sometimes they're really, really good, really impactful. So, yeah. That's my gift.
I thought you were going to tell us something like, oh, I really love when they do this, or like, I don't like when they do that. That would be great.
Well, I can, you know, when we break down into groups, I can certainly give you more of my
Okay.
perspective.
Break down,
what I like
Specifics.
Yeah.
List.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of have like a bunch of ideas vying for my attention, so I'll try to just give as many as I can in 2 minutes. I've taken more classes than probably a person should, and so I know more than I'm actually capable of doing, so don't necessarily think I'm telling you things I do. I'm just telling you things I've learned, and then I try to do sometimes, or remember to do. But you talked about when you get stuck. Sometimes being stuck, at least for me, means that I have forgotten something or I've overlooked something, and my subconscious is trying to tell me that, but I don't know it consciously. And so that's why I'm stuck. So it's always good to take a break, go take a walk, or go do something else so that, as Stephen King calls them, the boys in the basement, your subconscious, can spit it out, whatever the thing is that's tripping you up. So don't always think that you're bad or that you're weak or you're a terrible writer because you got stuck. It might be a problem, and then later you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm glad I didn't write 10,000 more words because there's this gaping plot hole I didn't notice. Because I've done stuff like that. So, and then another thing I wish I would have thought about earlier on, or I stumbled upon it in a class I took, but like nouns and verbs, that's where it's at. Like a lot of times you play with like, oh, I've got to have some great simile, or you get drawn in by an attractive looking adverb, and really what you need is just the nuts and bolts. A good strong verb, a good strong noun doing the verb, and that's it. Sometimes it's just simple, but with strong verbs especially. So if you're new to writing, try to find the right verb and use passive ones sparingly. They're okay to have, by the way. Some people are really Nazis about passive voice, and sometimes you need passive voice for it to sound like a normal human being, so it's okay to use some. And then, the other thing that I found really helpful is to use the text-to-speech. Is that the timer? Listen to your piece.
Great idea.
Have someone, like, the mechanical voices nowadays are really good, and reading it to you, you'll catch a lot of stuff, and you'll hear the cadence and all that stuff. Okay, I'm over that.
I will have to say that the basis of this starts with speech team. Just because, surprise, informative public speaker, I now write authoritative, informative public, articles. So, learning to sit with critique. Because, if you're on speech team and you do even 5 minutes of that, you know what the meetings at the end of the hall are all about. It's about just getting torn down, and it's fine because they're also there to build you back up. And it's good, because then you have to do that to yourself, and when you get in the discipline of doing it yourself, it isn't bad. You actually know you need it, and you know there's something that's missing because the thing you thought was going to happen at that meet, or when you turned in whatever piece or what have you, didn't maybe strike what you thought. You know there's something missing, so you learn to comb through it and be okay with that, because it happens anyway. In any job you're in, any relationship, whatever, the critique happens, and if you can learn to sit with that, the ickiest feeling, it just isn't as bad, and it will actually progress you. And like I said, you look at things you did earlier and you just go, eesh. If I'd have gotten through some of that, it probably would have been refined out and would have been smoother, or got to the point better, or what have you, instead of being everyone's afraid of the critique. I mean, I still am. I still feel great, but I know what's on the other side. And getting better is the point, and you then can be proud of what you've gotten through to go, oh, that was at a different place, and this actually gets to the point, and this actually makes the impact I want. Like you said, straight to the thing that you really should do. Also, sleep. Things are so much clearer when you've had sleep, and then the terrible writing also kind of edits itself because you just throw it away and then you start over. But sleep and also sitting with critique is just a lesson that will never fail you, because sometimes the critique is bad, but you understand it because you've lived in it, and it's okay. Also, like a good informative speaker.
I don't have anything to add after that.
Yeah, you guys have made some
Yeah.
great points and I don't even understand some of them.
Okay, well, for mine, I guess, with the way that I write, a lot of times it's kind of catching the flow. And so for me, it's like I have to be prepared. It's kind of like songs come to me, or like, you know, something in my mind starts to work itself into a song. And a really helpful thing for me is to use a voice recorder, because sometimes those don't come back unless I have something to get me back in that flow. And it especially helps with like the melody and stuff, but could help with any words. And I think one of the best pieces of advice I got, particularly for my songwriting, was you're thinking about it too much. Because I was just asking, like, how do I do this? Do I need to do, like, line A rhymes with line B? And, like you know, trying to think about it way too much and kind of blocking the creativity. And so then when I let go and just kind of started writing songs in all different ways and all different structures and things like that, then it really could flow through and express what I wanted to express without worrying about it too much. And usually I keep my songs kind of to myself at first, and then when I have it feel like it's polished enough, then I share it. Yeah, that's kind of my style. Also, my mom, since she's not here, but she got her idea for her book, which is like a novel, from a dream. And so she said that ideas kept coming to her, and she had the same thing where she really needed to act on it like right away, or the ideas sometimes stop. And I actually started writing a novel that I got to like 200 pages, but it was like when I was a teenager, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna go back and finish it at this point or not. Maybe if I changed it and like worked with my own critique of myself from that time and stuff. But that's how it was for me too. It was just kind of getting in that flow, and then I wanted to stay in the flow for like as long as possible and focus until I had to move on. That's cool.
I don't know. I kind of do the same thing. If something hits you, write it down right away, or get it down right away, otherwise it leaves, or you can't word it exactly the same. But I also had a photographer tell me, just if you want to do photos, just take pictures every day. Just one picture every day. It doesn't even matter. And that was before everyone had cameras, so now it's really easy, and there's no excuse, right? And I think working in the nonprofit world, well, for Lutheran Family Services, I hear so many people talk about lived experience and how you can use that to help others, and I think that's a great way to write and to express what you've been through, especially if you've been unable to. So, yeah.
All right. Well, just some quick notes. Life is inspiration. You can write about anything. My children are my inspiration, and they provide a lot. Peace and quiet is good, but it's hard to come by when you have 7 kids. So the shower is a good place to retreat. That seems to be where I get a lot of ideas. Keep it simple. Sometimes I was an English tutor for a few years before I went to work at the bank, and I had kids who thought that flowery words and lots of overwriting was the key to a good paper. No, it wasn't. Just keep it simple, keep it realistic. I had a professor tell me that when you're stuck, just imagine you're talking to your best friend, and how would you talk to them, and that's kind of how you want to write it. And when the words speak, write them down. Technology is great. I use my phone, notes a lot, so that's about it.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this, but sometimes I dread writing. And the hardest part sometimes is just starting. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I want, like you were talking about your professor's advice of, is this the best that you can do? Sometimes it's just not, and sometimes you can't get that, and you can't bring that out of your head right away. Sometimes you just have to put words on paper and see what comes out. I kind of appreciated what May was talking about being vulnerable. I'm a musician too, and sometimes it can be really hard to, like if you're writing a song on guitar or something, you're overly critical of everything that's coming out, and you're like, is this fully representing me? Is this the best thing I can do? I think sometimes it's better to just write what comes out, and even if that isn't the best thing you've ever written or played on whatever instrument, it's still its own reflection of who you are or what you're thinking in that moment. Yeah, that's sometimes it's hard for me to follow that advice because I still want the best thing to come out, but to not have mental breakdowns, you gotta just get things out and start somewhere.
Great, thank you.
But your stories are great.
Thank you.
That you write. I really appreciate them in the Waverly paper.
Thanks.
You've written many very great articles.
Thank you.
We'll pass around again.
Sure. I'll try to pick up something on what's left. Most of the things have been covered. I've given up on is this my best? Because it isn't. Because I still have some amount of time left. I think for me it's about, is it me at this point? You know, like I said, I've gotten that wonderful support that what I write sounds like sitting next to me. So that's the question I ask is, does it do that? Everything that comes out has been narrated. I don't put anything out that I can't read without tripping or stuttering over some part of it. I prefer to look at the words as sculpting at this point, especially on the poetic things I do. And, you know, there's a few people in the room who will probably cringe a little bit at this. Part of it's a realization of getting beyond that point of, okay, I know the rules of English grammar, I know the vocabulary, now let's set that aside and actually write, because now we know how to break the rules. And I know I've not had to break the rules.
Breathe, Smith, it'll be okay.
As far as tools, dictation is also a really great one. Voice notes in the phone. There are tools now like Otter that'll let you convert those directly to text and then start editing out, and that makes life a lot better. So that, and I guess keep your inner circle. I mean, I like to have an inner circle of people who will read and eviscerate the work because they understand we're beating on each other's work in private, so when it's outside of people who aren't friendly, it's already taken the worst hits it can. And, you know, that sounds really aggressive, but, you know, critique out in the world at large is not kind. So you need to find kind people who are willing to really lay into the work and say, no, this doesn't sound like you at all. So that's what I have.
Great, thank you. Anybody else coming around? Okay. Well, because I'm an old physical education teacher, we've been sitting for too long. It's time to just get up and move around in the room for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then we're going to come back, and I have notebooks while you're up and moving that you can pick up, and if you didn't bring something to write with, we'll get you something to write with, because our next activity is called note passing, and I think you're going to have fun with that. So if you need a notebook, they're over here, and this will be a notebook that you can take home with you. It's yours.
Hey,
Okay.
notebooks. I have a nice big stash of
Oh,
notebooks that I
have been starting to
Is there any specific stories that you write? Are they murder stories or just a variety?
For real. I feel like I haven't in vain for some reason. I can't remember when. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel like it happened. This year.
So they do
just last
like,
year.
I've done, they have like short romances and short mysteries. And that was mostly on the honest side, I tried that because they pay really well. But It's been like a really hard work.
Are you sitting right next to each other?
So I kind of put some layouts that I'm sending to them because I was last time that on something and then like.
I couldn't remember that we're gonna do is as follows. Again, you need to be creative here, and whatever you decide to choose as your prompt, you can. So in your notebook, you're gonna write a prompt at the top. For example, it might be list the foods you are growing up with. Or maybe your prompt will be draw or write about a building you like. So put your prompt at the top and then write a little bit about it, but not too much. Because then you're going to take your notebook and you're going to pass it to the right. And the person that's next to you gets to read your prompt and add something. So we're not writing a 5-idea paragraph. These are just little things, snippets, that you can write. So maybe if you've got an idea about a book that you're thinking about, or a poem, and you want some additional ideas, maybe you'll get some. You know, you can question about what that prompt is, or maybe clarify or add to it, however you want to use your pen. Is that clear? Or is it, one of my teachers would say, is it Coke or is it 7-Up? I hope it's 7-Up. You can see through it, right? It makes sense. All right, so you have about 2 minutes, not a big amount of time, and we'll not go around the whole room because we'd be doing that all afternoon, but maybe we'll pass the notebook, 4 times, 5 times, and then we'll break into our groups and talk to who we want to talk to, because I noticed during food that was big conversation. So that's important. That's part of the reason why we're here. So again, figure out a prompt, put it at the top. This is what I'm responding to, and then have a little go.
So do we choose a prompt?
You choose whatever you want. Yeah. They're all going to be different. So when you pass your notebook, somebody's going to have to do a little reading and thinking. But that's a good thing. You're on. I'll start the timer.
Morgan, what's been on your mind today? Just start with like a little thing.
No, that's the lie.
We talked earlier. Come on.
has a little thing over there too. I don't think I have one. I sometimes have one, but then my kids steal it out of my purse.
things from my purse. Worst pen.
I think the kids stole it out of my purse, so. That's good.
Yes, thank you. I got it.
Wrap it up. And pass it to your right.
No, I know it's really poetry.
Obviously, brains.
People know what that's like.
I know.
She loved poetry.
Okay, so you get a response.
More.
Read it, respond.
Sorry. How far did we get?
Too far.
Did you get one? Is it in poetic form? This is.
Oh, that's how the mouth.
And this makes it, yes, it makes it the full moon.
Okay.
You're not editing. You're not
I don't
editing.
have a pen, I have a pencil.
Pet.
Oh, yes.
Is this the right
Yes.
word? Okay, all right. No, I don't know. It doesn't matter. There's no exact right.
No, this is good.
Wrap it up.
No time.
And pass it on.
Are we supposed to write any prompts?
It goes back. Yeah, it goes.
Oh, okay. It's okay. Okay. No, I did the right thing. I'm just like.
Okay, I think we got it now.
She's doing what I write, and she has no choice this time.
Oh my gosh, I can't even read this.
I heard that one before. I tried to be neat.
Yeah, I'm doing my best too.
It's also harder once we're
Oh, mine's
There's a
getting
reason
bad.
I
I type,
type.
exactly.
Yeah, I have terrible
This
pencils.
is not, I'm not in the same zone with anyone else that's writing on these.
Oh my.
Wrap it up. And this will be your final pass.
are really varied. It's cool.
Okay, wrap it up. And while you're walking your notebook back to its owner, if you can figure out who that is, we're going to have Emily prepare to give us a little musical entree, and then we're going to break into who I want to talk to groups. And we'll do that for about 15 or 20 minutes and then come back and wrap up.
So let's see, how many clicks did we get? Like 4?
This one belongs somewhere over here.
I like that. That's great. I love my dog. My name is it should be a couple.
Biggest frustration.
This is mine.
Is this yours?
One that started with some poetry.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Poetry. Think so.
Makes sense.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, I used to love poetry.
Mine was like, not at all.
What's your question?
No, it doesn't. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nice.
If you need it for this other stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah. Should have anything really small
There were these questions and.
Yeah, absolutely.
You made me think of seeing those ads on Facebook like.
Thanks.
The weird little AI
person that'll talk to you if you're lonely or whatever. And then not really dress in a way I feel like I'm trying to flow here. Yeah. That was funny when you said that. I'm like, yeah, I know. This could go either way. Yeah. Really pretty. Then knowing people, yeah, I'll find a way to make it terrible.
Are you good there, or do you want to come in here? Here, sit on the piano bench.
You can do that.
I have a music stand.
Oh, here.
Stand behind that.
I've got some that I kind of still need to this.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. Do you know how to put this together? Me? Oh, you do? You're a music
I
person.
don't.
Two musical people can, I think, manage this task.
Let's do something like that. Just kind of finagle something and prop it up. It's handy. And I got my kids one of those.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this first song is actually one that I traveled around and I just sang to people, which always surprised people because that doesn't happen very often. Just like going up like, hey, can I sing you a song? And it was really, really fun. So I'll always have really good memories with that song. And it's called See Only Love.
Every experience is something you attract, whether good or bad. The lesson was just that you attracted the problem so that you could solve them. Your evolution happens just like that. Give thanks and acknowledge all your new knowledge about how to navigate this life. The thoughts I give energy to are the things that make my future true. I have all I need to improve and exceed. I am joy, I am love, I am free to rise above my past pain and problems. I know how to solve them. I look in my mirror and see only love. Every person is someone you attract, whether good or bad. The lesson was just that you attracted the lesson so that you could have blessings. Your evolution happens just like that. Give thanks and acknowledge all your new knowledge about how to navigate this life. It's divine intervention born from your intention. Your
wonderful. Can we have just one more?
Sure.
Encore.
All right. I think I'm gonna do this one. This one is called Pure Transcendence. Is another one that's kind of tied to
And
like.
before you get started, I
Yeah.
have a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you were at Raymond Central, were you writing and singing?
I was singing karaoke still at
Still
that
karaoke.
point, so I was doing a lot of singing. Not a lot of writing besides like schoolwork. That really
So
took
were
me
you in
until
choir
after.
or any of
Yeah,
that
I did
extra?
choir
Okay.
and I did speech. I did do speech too, so
Okay.
I was writing.
Yeah,
For
and,
speech, too.
and who was the music teacher, the choir teacher?
Carolee Curtright.
Oh.
And I think we went maybe through a couple other ones before.
Yeah,
her.
I was gonna say, that's the
It was kind of a
revolving door.
turbulent
Yeah.
time for the choir teachers, but
Yeah.
yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
Liked her a lot.
All right, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries.
I was gonna ask that too, I can't remember if you were in choir and.
Yeah, I did madrigals.
I was
and
gonna say, did you do
some
small
of those
groups
things.
too?
Yeah.
Very good. How many choir teachers?
Too many, yeah.
Too many, yeah.
You know what? Maybe
Just like
I should-
band.
Do you want me to do just one more?
We had a good run
Might
with the
actually
last two,
switch.
but now we're into probably rotation again.
Right.
Not good.
I might actually switch real quick. Are you a fan of Fia? Do you listen to her music? Fia. I don't think I know Fia.
Your music reminds me of my yoga playlist. It's
Oh
beautiful.
yeah. you
Like,
can
oh.
you can use it in your
I'll put
yoga
it-
classes if you want, or I'll come sing at one.
There you go. We'll collab together.
Sounds good. I want to see your book too. Okay, I'm gonna do this one instead. This one's called The Time Has Come.
We're all artists and we're all creators, and we all will harvest our pure seeds for later, and we will plant them deep down in the ground, comforted by the dark till they're ready to be found by the desire to reach for the sun, and then they will say the time has come, the time has come, the time has come, the time has come, the time has come. We're all movers and we're all shakers, and we all have the choice of right now or later, and those ideas we have deep within our hearts, they reach out for the light when they're ready to be part of the desire to reach for the sun, and then they will say the time has come, the time has come, the time has come, the time has come, the time has come. The time has come to present your ideas, gifts of love, right now and right here. There's no better time, there's no better place, just let it flow, get out of the way. I listened when a wise one said, only some of us live before we're dead, so live it up. Use your voice, your gift of love, your power of choice. You're powerful, you're magical, you're unique, you're creative, and so much more. The time has come to shine so bright, yeah, in the darkness, be the light. There's no more
I'd love to do a house.
How many songs do you have there?
I haven't counted for a while. Probably about 22.
Wow.
Wonderful,
I was gonna
wonderful.
put more than that.
Well, I think it's time for you to find some people that you want to talk to. Go to a room, sit down at a table, get some coffee, water, tea, whatever you'd like, and have some important conversations about stuff. So, do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. That's the PE,
good
right?
advice.
Just do it already. Get out there. Thank you, Emily, that was lovely.
That was
Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Book, and I spent a lot of years in hospitals, children's hospitals. My daughter had cancer when she was little, so I don't know, the idea just came to me years ago, you know, about, you know, every kid's just unique, and that's kind of where I got the idea, just dealing with a lot of kids in hospitals, and so every character's got a little bit something wrong with them physically, and they end up kind of on the same journey in life together and helping each other along. And the last one, the Swan, actually doesn't have something physical, but he has fear. So sometimes that can be the most crippling for all of us.
Sure.
So the other ones help him overcome his fear. So it's been a neat journey, and I'm working on another one. And so
That's awesome.
thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. We've had a great afternoon. Right now we're just into groups talking to people about stuff. So we're going to do that for a few more minutes, and then we're going to close up, and we're going to have a video, Margaret. So we'll get that posted. And the other thing, while I've got you, I would like, if you're interested in sharing your contact information, I'll put a notebook out there, and you can write that, and then I'll form probably a Google group or something. Donna or somebody will help me figure that out. And then, you know, you guys can interact and so forth, and after you're done with your groups, then we'll just spend a few minutes about your ideas about what's next, okay? Because I think you hated today, right? I think not. But, yeah, so give yourself another 5 minutes or so with your people, and I'll put a paper out on the table, and we'll go from there. Okay, thank you
so much.
Yeah, join a group. I think, are there children's writers?
No, I've messed with, like, I don't know,
Loving it.
I never finished one. I've started different, like, screenplay, play, whatever. That's one of my favorite things in fiction is writing dialogue.
Right, which is what a lot of that is about. Right, staging it, plotting it, blocking it.
I was like, should I try? And I screw around with it, and then I would drop it.
I would think you could, because you've had some lived experience with it, and you've done the other
She is just a
written book form of it, but maybe some of that,
So it's not
how to join the two,
yeah.
you know, would be
Well, and
interesting.
one of those like the length.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
How, you know.
Yeah, not yet. And I think
Right, what are you trying to say, how much are you trying to portray?
Thoughts that you have, and then do your postcards, and there's a sign-up sheet out on the table. If you'd like to share contact information, I'll put a group together. So,
I'd like to hear more about how people get started, just because everyone thinks, you know, their journey is just like kind of quiet, and maybe no one understands it, and maybe there's more people that have that same experience. I also was hoping to hear more about the playwriting, just because that's a whole different performance level to it as opposed to reading it internally, you know? So I think that would be an interesting aspect to explore. Just also the experience with speech, spoken word, writing for the spoken word is so much different than writing for the reader. So that would be an interesting element. I'm sure there are a few people that might be able to expand on that here, so those are my thoughts.
I think it'd be neat to share what people have written. I mean, I enjoyed reading Tammy's book. I had not read it, and knowing who it was about just now. And I think I was sent a couple of your stories, but just to read what people have written would be a neat thing.
Maybe we do that ahead of time if we have links or something that
Mm-hmm.
could be shared that way.
That would be a cool thing to,
Even after the fact from this one, there could be, if that group
Share.
has links of things to read, if you were able to do it that way.
Yeah.
It'd be great to see the links, but also, like you said, the spoken versus the written.
Right,
If
that's a
people
whole
wanted
different-
to give a reading or to have, if it's more of a poem that would be spoken, that would be great to have an opportunity to hear that, see that.
I think it'd be neat to review like how to do a query letter, and then maybe even how to lock down agents better, because if you find an agent, it's just such an easier route to do. Query letters and synopsis to get your book promoted. Yeah, would be neat.
Maybe a little bit into freelancing, if you're not, that's what I am, not a fiction writer, but there's avenues similar to that when you're looking for just doing freelance writing for maybe authoritative types of topics, if that's your thing. That would be something that at least I could speak to.
I'd like to hear more about that, actually. Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about, per se, gaining confidence to say anything. Honestly, just the creatives, I feel like it's easy to get in your own head and to be afraid to just not act. I feel like the act of acting does a lot more than just thinking itself. So I think in general, just strategies to keep going out and doing things and not necessarily getting so stuck in your head.
Maybe the psychology of being creative.
Yeah, exactly. Surviving life as a creative.
Yes. How to not drown in self-doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
A weekend retreat. You're gonna need the whole weekend.
You're gonna need all of it.
I'd also like to hear some thoughts or maybe some brainstorming ideas as far as I work with a lot of schools and students in the after-school program, some of whom have a lot of talent or are trying to encourage that creativity. So I think it would be helpful to kind of hear some ideas of how that can be, further supported in that sense.
It's huge because I think everybody here had early supports. There was somebody who was believing in what we could do, and I know I've met a few just with people you're working with, and you have too, where they don't have that support. It's like, okay, there's so much potential here that risks being lost.
Well, and sometimes they just need a reason or space to do it. I was telling her I had a very brief teaching stint for 2 years, but I had my classes write short stories, and there was this girl that was failing all her classes. She was kind of somebody that you would just write off, and we did this short story thing, and most of my students complained they had to write 5 pages, and they were going on and on and on. But she actually had a really natural voice. She didn't do well with, punctuation or putting things in proper format, but that was something I could help her with revision. But she ended up getting a D in my class, and for her that was a huge win because she was failing everything, and she kind of liked that project. So you never know. Just propositioning it, hey, let's try writing a story. You get a pick, or give them a prompt or whatever. You might be surprised what they come up with. You just need someone to suggest it. Hey, try this.
And with building those spaces, in a school setting, you can just make a club to support those spaces. But how do you, per se, make a space once you get out of school, once you're in the real world? How do you create a community that can really just support and motivate each other to get that sort of support?
Or even just learning how to find those things, because there are
They're
lots
there.
of things, but sometimes when you're very new to it, you don't know that you have there are writing groups maybe in your area, or just trying them out, or getting a reference to, hey, why don't you come join our group, or I don't know. But yeah, just learning the avenues, where can I go to find people like me? And then once you know how to find them, then it's not so bad. But yeah, you're right. When you're first starting out, you're am I all alone? You're really not. There are lots of people out there.
So I think we should do this again, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like the vote's yes.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'd love more info on how I can take this like passion and something that I think I've kind of been good with most of my life, but I never really took myself seriously at, and actually turn this into a legitimate source of income for myself and my family, which would be really big.
It can feel strange trying to promote something that you think is gonna nobody even understands, or maybe limited people understand what's either the options are, or what you're even talking about, or why, or how would that ever result in anything, you know? And forcing yourself to dig deeper into places that seem kind of risky to go that far, but you know, what do you...
Yeah, and you're right on about the vulnerability. You said it earlier, like spot on. I mean, that's what we've all done today, is shown up and just be really vulnerable to just say, like, this is a passion and I love it. And I gave these guys my cards. I'll leave some in my contact info too. I created something that I don't quite know what it is yet. I call it Indigo Blue Hive, but I kind of think of it like a little community hub. And this is what its purpose is to find safe spaces for people to do their art, do their yoga, right? Do whatever moving or, you know, meditation or whatever it is to help kind of move that energy and help keep things moving in a positive direction and find each other and collaborate together and all that sort of thing. So we need those safe spaces for people to thrive in our communities. So yeah, I'm just so grateful to be here, you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like, the only person I knew here was Harriet, so this is great.
Well, thank you for coming today.
Thanks for having us.
We do have a house across the way, and one of the things that I thought about was, you know, some kind of an artist's weekend. You know, we've got some bed and breakfast experience. And you know, it would be you know, could be solitude, but yet some collaboration. So something that you know, if you're thinking that would be a cool thing to do, something that I could probably put together and book a weekend and make it reasonable. Right now, the property over there is up on VRBO, and it's meant for groups to book the property in that regard with, you know, friends and family, etc. But I, because of my interest in the arts, I'd like to offer something like that at a reasonable price, but it would be to the select group or select group and friends. So, you know, if that's something that you think you'd be interested in, you know, let me know, and we could move forward with something like that.
Yes.
Because it sits, you know, empty sometimes, like a lot of the time. Except in the summertime, it gets, because of the pool, we're pretty popular. But, and there's also another property that we have in Lincoln. I'll put in a plug for that. It's a loft in the Haymarket called Ironworks Loft, and there's a card on the table if you're interested in that. And it's a really cool venue that we have up on Airbnb. The house across the way is up on VRBO, and Pinecrest Farms is the name of our property. So it's on Facebook, both of them are. So you can look at them there, and Airbnb and VRBO, and you know, it is what it is. So just some thoughts out there. But it can be an escape, and that's something that can happen.
I'd come. And I would need a place to stay. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll offer yoga for the.
There we go.
You know, I could bring Harriet.
I could bring my friend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like you had said, there's a lot of sitting in, so that could be a physical break.
Yes, well, that's those are the important kinds of things. We've got connection to the drums. Hello, Bessie.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And hang around if you want further conversation, but we're beyond time, and
Thank you for your time. I'm glad you had a spare.